It's the final days of 1999. Inside a dim bedroom, lit only by the pale glow of a CRT monitor, a 15-year-old boy is hunched over a keyboard. His fingers move fast, guided by instinct and obsession. On screen, lines of green code pulse like a heartbeat. This isn't vandalism. It isn't about money. It's about curiosity, the kind that doesn't stop at the surface. His name is Jonathan James, and in just a few weeks, he'll quietly break into NASA and the Pentagon. Jonathan was born in 1983. By middle school, while his classmates were learning to multiply fractions or ride skateboards, Jonathan was tearing through programming books and reverse engineering code like puzzles. He wasn't being trained, he was training himself. At night, while the house slept, he slipped into IRC chat rooms, digital back alleys where old-school hackers traded exploits like baseball cards. He listened more than he spoke. When he did type, it was under a single name: Comrade. He wasn't in it for the chaos. He didn't care about defacing websites or stealing credit card numbers. He wanted to understand how the systems that ran the world actually worked, and how fragile they really were. Jonathan wasn't some bored delinquent. He was an explorer, charting an invisible world from behind a keyboard. Then came August 1999. Jonathan found a crack in the digital armor of one of the US military's most critical agencies, the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. The DTRA oversees the nation's most terrifying weapons: nuclear stockpiles, biological warfare defenses, national security protocols. Most seasoned hackers would have poked around and left. Jonathan didn't. He wrote a sniffer, a tool that sits quietly, capturing login credentials like a wiretap. And he waited. Days passed. Weeks. The system handed over its keys. With admin credentials in hand, he accessed internal emails. Thousands of them. Plans for experimental weapons. Deployment scenarios. Jonathan downloaded it all. Slowly. Quietly. Over weeks. The government would later spend over $1.7 million cleaning up the mess. At the time, they had no idea who did it, but Jonathan wasn't finished. Just a few months later, he aimed higher, literally. His new target was NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, responsible for the software that kept astronauts alive aboard the International Space Station. He found another weak point, another unpatched server. Using the same quiet precision, he slipped in and found what most people never even imagine exists: source code. Not just any code. Code controlling the ISS's life support systems. Systems that, if they failed, could kill people in space. Jonathan didn't corrupt it. He copied it, line by line, onto a hard drive tucked beneath his bed in Florida. Then NASA noticed something strange. Their logs didn't line up. Internal probes revealed the breach, and panic swept through the agency. They shut down their entire network for 21 days. Work stopped. Engineers scrambled to patch vulnerabilities, all of it because of one teenager on dial-up. The cost, over $40,000 in damage control. But the real loss was trust. Someone had walked right into one of the most secure digital vaults in the world, and that someone wasn't an enemy state. He was a sophomore in high school, no driver's license, no cell phone, just raw intellect, persistence, and a deep need to understand the machinery behind the curtain. While the world counted down to midnight and popped champagne to welcome the year 2000, federal agencies were counting keystrokes, trying to trace the invisible fingerprints of someone they didn't even know existed. Then, on January 26th, the knock came. FBI, Secret Service, local police. It wasn't subtle. They raided Jonathan's house like it was a terror cell. Computers, notebooks, modems, CDs, everything was seized. But Jonathan didn't run. He didn't deny. He just stood there, watching as the world he built in silence was ripped apart. He took a plea, 6 months of house arrest, probation until he turned 18. No computers, except for schoolwork. He became the youngest person ever convicted under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. In the hacker world, he became a legend. A teenager who walked through the digital walls of NASA and the Pentagon. He tried to move on, got a job, kept a low profile. But once you're on the radar, you never really get off. Any breach, any leak, any unexplained glitch, and suspicion returned like clockwork. Then in 2007, it happened again. A massive hack hit the TJX companies, millions of credit card numbers stolen. It was one of the largest retail breaches in history. The main suspect, Albert Gonzalez, a cybercriminal with a tight crew and a long rap sheet. But as investigators peeled back layers, they didn't just look at new suspects, they looked back at old names, at people who'd already proven they could go where others couldn't. Jonathan's name came up. No evidence, no hard link. But they raided his house anyway. Again, same tactics, same chaos, same suspicion. This time, Jonathan left a note. "I have no faith in the justice system," he wrote. "I am innocent. I honestly had nothing to do with TJX." Days later, he took his own life. He was 24. His death sent a shockwave through the hacker community. IRC forums filled with tributes, ASCII memorials, posts that read like digital eulogies. Some blamed the government, others blamed the law. But what everyone agreed on was that something deeply wrong had happened. Jonathan wasn't a criminal mastermind. He wasn't selling data. He wasn't sabotaging systems. He never made a dime from what he did. He was a question asker, a system explorer, a kid with a dial-up connection who got too far inside the machine and couldn't get back out. In many ways, Jonathan was a warning, not of danger, but of possibility. That a teenager, alone in a bedroom, could break into the most secure systems in the world. Jonathan James didn't invent hacking, but he embodied its most dangerous and beautiful form, unfiltered curiosity. Because at the end of the day, the threat wasn't code. It wasn't malware. It wasn't an exploit. It was a teenager with a question. This was Jonathan James, the boy who hacked NASA